Hey guys, another day, another mini PC review. Today we're testing the Beelink. It is the SER5 Pro. We have an AMD APU with 8 cores, 16 threads, 32 gigabytes of RAM, 500 gigabytes of storage, and AMD Radeon graphics. And you're looking at $479 US. Full disclosure as always, Beelink sent me this mini PC for free, but there's no contract, no conditions, no script. All the words are mine. No one sees this video before you, and I always share exactly what I think of this product. In the box we have the mini PC, a user manual, 2 HDMI cables. They're both pretty short. We get screws to install a 2.5-inch SATA drive. We'll take a look at that later. A VESA mounting bracket to install the mini PC at the back of a display, and a power supply. The power supply is rated at 65 watts. I use a power meter running Cinebench on all the cores, 48 watts for the entire machine, and running the single thread test 28 watts. In terms of dimensions, it's just under 13 centimeters wide, 4 centimeters tall, and 11.3 centimeters deep. And it weighs 450 grams. At the front here you can clear the CMOS. We have 2 USB ports with 10 gigabits, a USB-C port, also 10 gigabits, and has display 4K 60, headset port with TRRS connector. Here is the power button with a white power LED. I had quite a few issues with the USB ports for some reason. Now the USB-C port, that one worked fine, but the other USB ports, they gave me various issues. I tested with a 10 gigabit and 5 gigabit USB drives, and yeah, all I can say is these ports are flaky. They would lose connection randomly and not sure what's going on. Hopefully this is just this device, but I've had USB troubles with mini PCs in the past, so maybe there's more going on. At the back we have gigabit Ethernet, another USB 3 port with 10 gigabits, a USB 2 port with 480 megabits, 2 HDMI ports, both of these can do 4K 60, and here goes the power supply. We have Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth, and finally this Beelink mini PC has decent Wi-Fi. We're getting Wi-Fi 6 with a 802.11ax Wi-Fi adapter. I'm seeing around 40 megabytes per second, so that's not megabits, megabytes per second. That's pretty decent, and that is connecting to my NAS with a Xiaomi Wi-Fi 6 router. Let's have a look at clock speeds and temperatures. Running Cinebench R23 with all the cores, we're seeing a clock speed of around 2.9 gigahertz with a maximum temperature of 81 and an average of 77. Running the single core stress test, the core clock is 4.2 gigahertz with a maximum temperature of 84, so a little bit warmer, and the average is 78. To open the mini PC there are 4 screws at the bottom. Here we can see the drive bay to install an additional 2.5-inch SATA drive. Compared to other Beelink machines, this one is a little bit more complicated to disassemble, quite a few screws, but we made it into the inside. Here we have the RAM, 2 16 gigabyte modules from Crucial, DDR4 3200 megahertz. And this is the NVMe SSD. It is a 500 gigabyte module from Kingston, and I'll put some benchmark results on the screen. Performance is excellent. Regarding fan speed, very nice to see that on this Beelink you can go into the BIOS and customize the fan settings. For example, you can have them run at full blast. That means the fans will go around 3000 to 4000 RPM. Quite audible, but you will get the maximum cooling performance. So you can tweak it to your liking. If you want to have the machine run a little bit hotter but quieter, you can do that. But if you want maximum performance at the trade-off of some noise, you can also do that. So it's really nice that you can customize this to your own liking. The machine comes with Windows 11 Pro. I connected to my Wi-Fi network, downloaded all the latest Windows updates, and then also the latest AMD Radeon graphics drivers as well as the chipset drivers, and then I set the power profile to maximum performance. Let's have a look at some benchmarks. In Cinebench R15 we're getting 1638 for the multi and 232 for the single core test. In R20 we're getting 3782 for the multi-core and 483 for the single core test. And here we have the results for Cinebench R23, the multi-core test, with test results from previous mini PCs on the channel. And compared to the previous gen, the SER5 with the Ryzen 7, it's not much of an improvement, a slight generational boost. I did expect a little bit more. And here are the results for the single core performance, 1327, pretty decent. Again, a small boost over the previous SER4 mini PC. It's a little bit behind the latest generations of Intel mini PCs, but you have to realize that the Ryzen R7 5800H is now 2 generations old. One advantage of AMD APUs is you're getting Radeon graphics with decent drivers, 14,913 in Skydiver and 4,006 in Firestrike. Now, performance is one aspect, the other one is drivers and gaming compatibility, especially with older games. Here the AMD drivers are much better. For example, in the previous video we tested Intel and it had all sorts of stuttering going on with Crysis. Let's test some games. My favorite racing game is up first. We have Dirt 3 running at 1080p with the very high preset and we're getting over 100 FPS. That is beautiful and sets the tone for all the other games. Something more modern, Strange Brigade running with the Vulkan API at 1080p with the low preset, around 40 FPS. That is excellent. Shadow of the Tomb Raider also runs pretty well, 1080p, lowest preset, around 30 FPS. Modern games might be a little bit too much for this mini PC, but older games will run really well. Here we have Tomb Raider Legend, 1080p, all the settings are maxed out and we're getting over 60 FPS. I also tested DOSBox staging with maximum cycles in both Chris's benchmark and PC Player benchmark at 640 by 480. We're getting over 200 FPS and Quake runs at 86.6 FPS at 640 by 480. Again, I was hoping for a little bit more. If you know what's going on here, do let me know in the comments. Not a bad mini PC, but does it run Crysis? Let's have a look. Here we have the game running at 1080p, all the details maxed out, and it does run the game okay, but you're not gonna get 60 FPS. That's a little bit unfortunate. I'm not quite sure where the bottleneck lies. Maybe it's the graphics, maybe it's the processor, I'm not sure, but yeah, it does run Crysis, however, not at 60 FPS. We also get decoding for video, for example, H.264, H.265, VP9, all of that is accelerated. Unfortunately, AV1 is not supported. So guys, what's my verdict? For $479 US, you get a fairly decent processor. 8 cores, 16 threads. The single and multi-core performance is decent. It's a little bit behind the latest generations of mini PCs because this is now 2 generations behind what's currently on the market. We're getting decent RAM, 32 gigs. That's amazing for most tasks that you want to do. The storage, 500 gigabytes, it's nice and fast as well, and you can upgrade a 2.5-inch SATA drive if you need more capacity. A real highlight is the Radeon graphics. Not only does it perform well, modern games maybe not so much, but older titles you get excellent performance. It's also very compatible. The drivers are much more compatible with older games compared to what you get on an Intel-based mini PC. All the outputs support 4K 60 with RGB, no limitations, and also the Wi-Fi performance was outstanding. 40 megabytes per second over Wi-Fi is pretty decent. And I really like that you can configure the fan speed to your liking if you want it nice and quiet. At the trade-off of higher temperatures, you can do that, and the APU will just downclock. It's not gonna overheat or anything like that. In terms of negatives, I had issues with the USB ports, and I'll show you how I test. I use these 2 devices. This is a 10 gigabit U-Green adapter. It's got a M.2 NVMe inside, and for 5 gigabit I use this adapter. Yeah, standard SATA SSD, nothing special, and I'm not sure what's going on here. Maybe it's isolated to my unit, but I've seen other mini PCs also having issue with USB, so that's weird. And on my main desktop, which is a HP Z440 workstation, I never had these issues. I just plug it in and it just works. So yeah, that's feedback for Beelink to really sort that issue out. And there you have it. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think about this mini PC? I put a link down below in the video description to Beelink's website where you can order the machine. If you don't need 32 gig of RAM, you can configure it with less, but I really recommend 32 gig of RAM going forward. Yeah, RAM is quite cheap at the moment. You're saving maybe a little bit, but you're getting double the capacity. So definitely worth going for the larger amount. And yeah, that's it. Leave your thoughts and opinions down below in the video description. And hopefully we're getting some more mini PCs down the track. I enjoy testing them. And if you want to see more emulation stuff included, also let me know. I can definitely make that happen. And that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you soon with another one.